pretty good deal. You know, the start of college football season, you have a Brent Musburger, who I consider the voice of college football in Albuquerque, talking Lobo football. You know, Brent just talked to our team for about a half an hour. Did an unbelievable job. I think really surprised our players with how much specific knowledge he had about guys. Called Lamar Thomas out. Called a couple of our guys out. I think just did an outstanding job. So really fortunate to have him here. Appreciate everything he's done for college football. And Brent, this is the Lobo media here.
This is it.
Have at it,
Albuquerque.
man.
Yeah,
have at it.
When I was a little boy in Billings, Montana, Albuquerque and Billings were the same size, okay? And now what do we got? Nearly 1 million people here? And Billings is still, I don't even think it's 100,000, but it's great to be down here. Coach Diehm was so great to work with on the Saturday night when we did that together, because I would always learn something whenever he would break out the game tape. And the one point I really want to make, because I heard it, I've read it, and I've seen it, that, well, Coach Davies been away from the game too long. He doesn't know the game anymore. The last coach who left me to go back had been out longer. And oh, by the way, his name is Dick Vermeil. And by the way, in year 3, he won the Super Bowl with the Rams. Now, I'm not saying that Coach Davey in year 3 is gonna go down and win the BCS championship, as great as that would be, but over the long term, putting this together, they've got the right coach here. Trust me, I was around it. I first became terribly impressed with Coach when he was a defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. I would go down and see the Wrecking Crew, and they were really well named. That was one of the best defenses I was ever around. Not necessarily the biggest. Speed. I see this field turf going in and out here, and I say, my man, gonna have some linebackers here in a couple of years that can flat fly. But who's got some questions that you want to ask me about?
What did you talk to the team about? What was your message?
Well, I talked to the team about, especially the seniors, okay? They've had a tough time here. It's a very tough period, okay? And they want to go out with their heads up high, and they can accomplish so much. And you depend on everybody else in football. It is the greatest team game in the world. Quarterback, he doesn't win it alone, okay? He's got to have everybody around him. Defense, the one middle linebacker, no matter how good he is, doesn't win it alone. That's the beauty of football. And they're going to lose some games from time to time. It's going to happen. Don't point fingers. Come together. Work a little bit harder. Study, and go forward. Go to the 3-4. Harris is now standing up. As the rush in, his job's going to be to get to that quarterback. That's what he's got to do. Things like that. I also reminded the kids that you've got to be careful when you're out in town. They're targets. Basketball players and football players have to be even more careful than they ever have been in the past. LSU, we're getting ready for the LSU-Oregon game. Last year, we lost the starting quarterback for most of the season because he got into a fracas after the practice sessions had ended. The kids were all out together, and sometimes the players just have to walk away from trouble. They've got to be mindful of who they are and what they represent, that sort of thing.
You mentioned Joseph Harris by name. Did you and Bob go over the roster? Did you meet the kids individually?
No, Bob was kind enough to send me some notes. The office did, and so I was at least aware of the talent, and of course I've been aware of the struggles that have gone on down here, and the fact that New Mexico State has owned them the last 3 years, which that's a game that if you're a Lobo and you're a senior, that may be the game you want this year more than any other. You want to walk away because that's a rivalry game, and the Lobos through the years have not been dominated by them like they are right now. So that sort of thing. My home in Montana now is south of Missoula, and so I'm familiar with how a small community can rally around a football team, okay? And that's what these kids need here now too, is some support from Albuquerque. They've got to come out. I know people love winners, and I know it's going to eventually come down to that. but these kids need some support from the community. Make them feel better. If they get off to the right start, if they can win a game, if they can hold their heads up high against Texas Tech, and go on from there, you know. Not going to be easy, but I assured them they will win more games this year than they did last year. And that's the thought that they have to take into the season.
When was the last time you were in Albuquerque?
It was a hell of a night. Jim Valvano and North Carolina State. And you've all seen the clip when North Carolina State wins the national championship in the pit and Valvano was running around in the middle of the floor. Next thing I know, he ran up. I was the anchor that night. I wasn't the play-by-play. He's sitting next to me. He said, I don't know who to hug, so I came up to you. So I said, Jimmy, sit there. As soon as we run through some of these videos down on the floor, I said, we'll get to the interview. And then Jim, of course, worked with me and was just a wonderful, wonderful person to be around.
Three of us were here at that game.
Yeah, so you'll never forget it. Guy Lewis, the towel, Vice-Lama Jamma, and it was, you know, that was about the end of the era. There was another one, we went to Lexington. It was the end of the era of the small venues for the national championship. And, you know, I understand the economics, I understand the money, but there was something about that night coming into the pit, man, and Valvano orchestrating the game and dictating. So that was the last time I was here in Albuquerque.
How often do you and Herbie say, wouldn't it be great to say you are looking live at University Stadium?
We would undoubtedly will say it this year. You know, there's no question. We won't be here to say it, but we will say, wouldn't that be great to go do that and see our buddy? Okay, and it would be fun. You've got the first bowl game here, right? Isn't that the opening of the bowl season? Usually play a Pac-12, but they couldn't qualify a team. Was it Temple that came in here? Something, yeah, something like that. Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be fun to start the bowl season. That'd be good. But it's a great listen. I know small towns, and especially in the mountain time zone, because this is where I grew up in this time zone. I know what Denver is like, bigger, and the way they rally around their teams, and the passion that people have for sports in the mountain time zone is awesome. And once Bob gets a chance to get a few more players in here, get the system going, it will become the focal point of the community in the fall. That's what happens in towns like this. I mean, it's just natural. And you have to win, obviously. Kids have to behave themselves, go to class, do the right thing, and it'll be great. You know, I don't have to tell you, this has always been a great basketball town, you know.
You kind of talked about it a little bit, but can you tell us what do you think of the team and the boys you met today?
Well, I was very impressed that they were alert. I'd heard Coach talk to them earlier, you know, and make a couple of very strong points and called out some players. You look at us, when and when I was up there, they were paying attention. So there's alertness, and they have to listen. They got a brand new system. You know, they're brand new. I mean, when you bring in a whole new offense and a whole new defense, they have to listen to the coaches and do what they're told. And so that impressed me. Afterwards, a lot of them came up and introduced themselves. You know, seemed like very, very nice young men. So you just get a feeling about a group. A little bit shorthanded, you know, because they've lost some scholarships the last few. That's very tough in the college game to win when you're shorthanded because depth is down a little bit. So, but if the quarterback stays healthy and the running game gets going, because I know that's what Coach wants to do, control the clock and get the defense and get my kick return guy from Ohio State into the end zone a few times, can win some games. So that's, you know, it's an old-fashioned formula, and not very fancy, but you can do it. But they've got to pay attention. You know, they got to do their homework.
Bob said that when he got into broadcasting, he thought it would be for 1 year initially. Were you aware of his, from the start of his plans to come back, and were you surprised he took this one?
You know, how I look at that is that the only person I ever thought would never go back is John Madden, because he hated to fly in airplanes. So I figured that was a killer, that he wasn't going back under any circumstance. Well, every other coach that I've ever worked with, Bob, Dick, football, Jim Valvano before he died, all the guys in basketball, even Coach Bob Knight now. There's an itch that they have. And so it never surprises me when they go back. I will tell you that other schools have approached Bob through the years, and he's listened to them, and he has not felt that the situation was right. And I suspect it's with the whole family thing that he has, the dynamic. You know, both kids are here, which is great. He and his wife like the Southwest, so I think, you know, that contributes to him saying yes. And there's no reason why New Mexico can't be competitive in the Mountain West. There's no reason that I can see. I mean, you've got recruiting bases on both sides that you can get to. I mean, I'm aware that you've only got a limited number of top flight high school football players in the state of New Mexico, and you want to close in on them first and make sure that you don't have them walk away. But my goodness, there's so many football players over in Texas, and you could even jump up into Colorado or over into California. I mean, right here in this particular area of the country is where New Mexico has to get its main talent from. It's right here.
I mean, with all the conferences adding a bunch of different teams, can you just talk about? Do you think that's going to be good for college football?
You know, I think we have to wait and see if it's going to be good. You know, there are certain schools that have surprised me. One of them right here in this conference. I am surprised that Boise State decided to stick with the commitment to the Big East. Those are not going to be easy road trips for that team. I guess they felt they'd get a better national base, but they've recruited to the West. There's about 2 or 3, because I'm close to the Idaho border where I live. There's only about a handful of kids in Idaho and western Montana that can help the Boise State program, and they're very good about keeping those kids home. But the rest of their recruiting base, if you look at the Boise State, has been west. It hasn't been east. You know, Kellen was out of Washington, I believe. They get a lot of kids out of California to come up there, and I'm not so sure that you want to be playing a lot of games that far away from that. Would be my only feeling there. But we'll see. I mean, there had to be reasons for them to do it. Anything else? Yes.
You've done a lot of marquee games, I'm sure, they're all envious of some of the venues you've been at. Is there anything else you still want to cover, you want to broadcast to fill out the resume? Something you hit that bucket list kind of thing,
What would it be?
besides talking with us?
I'd like to do, I've got 2 really great friends in this conference, okay? I'd like to do a Mountain West game in November between New Mexico and UNLV, okay, with a conference championship on the line. Coach Diehm, Bob Houck, when he was a little boy in Big Timber, his father was a high school coach. And Tim Houck, as you know, went on to the NFL. Great special teams player, tough kid. Bobby was never that good a player as his brother, but they used to paint my father's fence out in the ranch up in Big Timber outside, and we still joke about it. My dad, being a tough-minded German, you know, he wanted a day's work, wouldn't let those kids have a lunch break. He kept, you know, paint the fence. So we still kid each other about it. But that would be fun. You know, I wish them both well. I mean, they both Bob and Bobby have got programs that have been down, and it's rebuilding processes, and so it would be great. I did a great game at Colorado State once with my friend Sonny Lubick, who was out of Butte. They were playing Utah, Coach McBride, and Colorado State was in the top 12 in the country at that time. Place was jammed. It was a heck of a game. Utah won the game. Mac beat them that day, but it was a terrific football game. You know, we do enough of this SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the ACC, and the Big 12 for sure. That's always nice to jump out and do some of the other conferences, to tell you the truth. That'll be about it. Okay, guys.